The word watch has many different meanings, depending on what you're watching. Right? If you were at the corner and you were going to cross the street, you're watching for cars. Yeah. If you're waiting to meet someone, you're watching for them to approach. You're anticipating. It could also have, a bad connotation, right? Where you're watching for something bad to happen and you're not sure. Maybe you're watching a scary movie. And I don't know why you watch a scary movie. That's scary. But you're watching and something is going to happen and you're waiting for it. You're watching. And there's all kinds of ways that we watch. And Jesus, here in chapter 24 and into chapter 25, is wanting us to be watchful. Watchful? Watching? What are we to look for? What are we to be watching about? Well, we talked about, in answering the Jewish question that the disciples had, because they're Jews, when will be the end? And what will be the sign of your coming? And so we've walked through chapter 24 as he talked about all these signs, about what's going to happen in the end. He said that that's not the end. Those are just the beginning of birth pains. It's going to get a lot worse before the baby's born, said all the moms. And then the end will come. And the sign, well, that's the abomination that causes desolation, verse 15 of chapter 24, when the Antichrist, who you thought was a good guy, is really not. And he's going to declare himself to be God. And then you should run. You should get out of town quickly. And God's going to supernaturally protect the Jews. And they're going to recognize Jesus as Messiah. But it's going to be bad that last 3.5 years. So bad that it looks like the armies of the world are going to come and destroy every last Israelite, every last Jew, until Jesus comes and returns and makes all things right and sets up his kingdom. And then he says there at the end of chapter 24, that no one knows the day and the hour. And we were talking about how that is in relation to the questions that were asked. So the Jewish context is it relates to the second coming of Jesus. But there is also an element that we can go, you know what, that also is relevant for us. Because the rapture could occur at any moment, at any time. And as we move into chapter 25, what is going to be talked about in this parable is the same kind of message. It's verse 13 and 25. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour. We're to be on guard. We're to be watching. We're to be looking for Jesus to come. And while we're to be watching, we're not just to be waiting and doing nothing. No, Jesus said in John 9, we must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. See, we don't know when the end is coming, so we need to be watching for it, but prepared. And sometimes, as believers, we could be watching, we're anticipating, we're looking for, but we're not prepared. We're not really ready. And that's what he's going to be looking at here in chapter 25. Being watchful and prepared, and how that turns into action in and for our lives. So we're going to begin in verse 1 of chapter 25. It says, the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, and 5 were wise. When the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them. The wise took flasks of oil with their lamps. As the bridegroom was delayed, they all became drowsy and slept. But at midnight there was a cry, here is the bridegroom, come out to meet him. Then all those virgins rose and trimmed their lamps. The foolish said to the wise, give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out. But the wise answered, saying, since there will not be enough for us and for you, go rather to the dealers and buy for yourselves. While they were going to buy, the bridegroom came. Those who were ready, underline that in your neighbor's Bible, went in with him to the marriage feast, and the door was shut. Afterward, the other virgins came also, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered, truly, I say to you, I do not know you. Watch, therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour. So we have a parable, right? It says, the kingdom of heaven will be like. And he's telling this story, this earthly story with a heavenly meaning. And sometimes what happens with parables is people take the parable and they look at all of the details and they assign all of these different meanings to all of the parts of the parable, and all of a sudden you've got all these different meanings of what the parable is talking about, and they miss the point that there's one point. Watch and be ready. Now, can we learn things from the details? Well, of course. But we shouldn't emphasize them to the neglect of the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that we need to be watching. It's a Jewish marriage. There's bridesmaids. There's a bridegroom. And the Jewish marriage, the wedding process, is really a three-stage process. It starts when, well, they're kids. Before they really know, dad with little Susie and another dad with little Johnny, and they say, we should have them get married. Well, what will you give me for her? Is she a one-goat girl or a two-goat girl? You know, how much is she? And they haggle on and they work out a price. That's how it was done. But the parents picked out the spouse. Not a bad plan. No, not a good plan at all. No. Yeah. Thank the Lord that we don't have that today. But then later comes the betrothal. That's the actual marriage. At that point, they're considered married, but they're not really married. They're not? Well, they're married. If they were to get divorced from that point on, it'd be like she'd be divorced. You have to get divorced if they're going to separate from the betrothal. If the bridegroom died, she'd be a widow. So they are married. Yeah, kinda. They're married in principle, but not in consummation. If you don't know what that is, then you're too young to be in here. And then comes, at some point later, which they know about the time, but not exactly, the bridegroom is going to come back for the bride. What has he been doing all that time? He's been getting ready. He's made sure he's got a place for them to live. He's got the field all ready to go. He's got a career going. He's prepared to have a bride. Now, again, we don't just pull things out of parables and make application, but we can learn principles, and we can say some things about marriage today that are helpful, as we see here in Scripture. Now, maybe not the have your parents pick out your spouse part, but they should be a part of the process. If they're against the person you're saying, I'm going to marry, you should pause. You should go, why are they against that? What is it that they're not for? You know, and if they got reasons, you should really pause. Like, well, they just don't like anybody. They don't want me to get married until I'm 35. That's probably not true. If it is, we'll talk to them. Make it 40. You know. But having others in your life that can give you counsel, that's a good thing. Taking time together to know that this guy you're going to marry, he's not just some guy who's like, I want to get married. You know, what are you going to do with your life? I don't know. We'll figure it out. I play video games. That's not a career. That is not a career. No, I post on YouTube all the time. That's still not a career. Very few people, you know, are they a hard worker? You're like, don't you mean are they rich? No. Do they have the work ethic? Is it demonstrable in their life? Like, did they get straight A's? No. Do they have a work ethic so that whatever they're going to do, they're going to succeed? Why? Not because they're the smartest, the brightest, but because they're going to work for it. They're going to provide for you. They're going to care for you. Don't settle. Just because, the time is moving on and everyone's getting married and, this is my 8th time that I've been a bridesmaid. This is ridiculous. I need to get married. No, don't settle. Be ready. Be prepared, guys. It means you have a plan. You don't just show up, hey, let's go, let's date. Why? Just because it'll be fun. You're going to date so that you're going to head towards marriage. It's not just fun, it's purposeful. That means you're planning something. You have a plan in mind. Back to our story. There's 10 virgins. You're like, and nothing. It has no bearing on this point of the parable. The fact is, there are 10 young women. That's all. That's it. You're like, well, number 10, that probably has significance, right? Because there's numbers in the Bible, and they tell us a lot. Nope. Like, what? Well, yeah, the number 10 is special in the Bible. There's 10 commandments, right? There was 10 plagues. 10 is the number of completion. It takes 10 Jewish males to have a synagogue. So, is there something significant about 10 virgins? No. Like, huh. Yeah. You can get lost in the details sometimes. The focus is watch and be ready. What's happening here? They're waiting for the bridegroom to come. It's kind of the opposite. In our marriage ceremonies, what happens? The bridegroom is standing waiting for the bride. Is she coming or not? Just a few more minutes. She's not quite ready. I wonder, has there been a wedding start on time? Possibly. Probably not. Because the bride wasn't quite ready. Everyone will wait for the bride. And everyone's okay with it. Which is wonderful. Except for that's one day. They've got a whole lifetime. They're waiting for the bridegroom to come and to gather the bride and take them back. And then they're going to celebrate. It's a festive time. 7 days of celebration. Finally, at the end of the 7 days, the best man's like, everybody home, get out, leave them alone. Like, it took you 7 days to tell that? A lot sooner, dude. Get out. They're waiting. And it says they fall asleep. You're like, oh, there's something to that about falling asleep. Yeah, we can make some spiritual applications, and we will. But what happens is, when the bridegroom comes, there are some who are ready and there are some who are not. There are some who are prepared. It says their lamp, but a better translation is their torches. They would have had a stick with rags and soak it, boom, 15 to 30 minutes of light on your torch. So you had to have extra oil, to apply to the rags to keep it burning. And so 5 were not just watching, but they were prepared. 5 were watching, but they weren't prepared. See, for 2,000 years, the church has been watching. We could say, well, the church maybe has been asleep. We need to wake up, like these bridesmaids. That could be true. But notice, there's nothing outwardly different about the 10. You can't tell by looking who was ready and who wasn't ready. It didn't become apparent until it was too late. Who was ready? That's true in our lives as well. See, they all had the same dress. They all had the same shoes, the matching purse, and everything was the same. But 5 were ready and 5 were not. We can make the case that in this section of Scripture, Jesus is talking about the rapture that will come at any moment. And if that's true, then some are left behind. They're like, well, were they believers, those that weren't ready? Well, they're called foolish. And again, we'll leave that to the Lord to decide whether this is the rapture, whether this is them being ready or not. Really, it comes down to we're to be watchful and prepared. See, Jesus, or Paul in 1 Thessalonians talks about the suddenness of the rapture, right? And then in verse 18, he says, encourage one another with these words. What words? Hey, it'll come it'll happen suddenly. It's going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. The dead in Christ will rise. Woo, woo, going up. He's like, this is an encouraging thing. This isn't like, oh no. This is, yay, exciting. This is bigger than a baseball game, bigger than the World Series, bigger than a football game. This is wonderful. But not everyone's ready. Revelation chapter 2 and 3, Jesus writes letters to 7 different churches. And in chapter 2, verse 22, it says, behold, I will throw her onto a sick bed, and those who commit adultery with her I will throw into great tribulation unless they repent of their works. In other words, there's something for that church, for those people to do. They need to repent. There's something required. Chapter 3, because you have kept my word about patient endurance, I will keep you from the hour of trial that is coming on the whole world, to try those who dwell on the earth. I believe he's talking about the period of the tribulation. He says, I am coming soon. Hold fast what you have, so that no one may seize your crown. Be ready. The bridesmaids all looked the same. They all seemingly were ready, but only 5 were prepared for what was to come. See, people could be in church their whole lives. And you're like, oh, for sure they're going. The problem is we don't know. We don't have little green arrows over our head. You know how much easier life would be? Especially from up here. Like, just look up, green arrows. Everyone's ready. This is wonderful. Encouragement time, here we come. Why? Because I just have to know, oh, green arrows, we're ready. Anytime, we're ready. Green arrows? There's no green arrows. You could be watching. You could be going through the motions. You have your Bible. But inside, there's nothing really happening. There's not real preparation. There's not real relationship. So we don't know. Paul writes about people like this. 2 Timothy 2:5 says, having the appearance of godliness, but denying its power. What's that? They want the benefits of following God, but the part where you have to surrender and get the power of the Holy Spirit to change your life, like, I'll pass on that. I just want to do my own thing. You're denying the power that's there, that's available to you and for you. See, when the bridegroom came, everyone's excited. It's a party. It's an exciting time. And maybe they danced a little. Maybe they were shouting with joy. It was a wonderful experience. It doesn't matter how high you jump. It doesn't matter how much you dance. It's how straight you walk. It doesn't matter if you're excited on the outside or on the inside. It's, do you know Jesus? Do you love Him? Are you ready and prepared? Paul says in 2 Corinthians 13, examine yourselves to see whether you're in the faith. Test yourselves. Do you not realize this about yourselves, that Jesus Christ is in you? Indeed. Unless indeed you fail to meet the test. See, they couldn't buy it quick enough. You can't buy righteousness. It's the free gift of God. It's available to and for all. Jesus is letting the disciples know, remember, still in context, when will the end occur? What will be the sign? He says you need to be ready. You need to be watching and ready. Going to church won't get you in. Being a good person won't get you in. Just looking like everyone else and saying the things that everyone else says won't get you in. What is needed and what is necessary? Well, there needs to be some evidence. That's what the next parable is about. There needs to be not just a watchfulness to our lives, but a preparedness that looks like, it looks like we're doing something with what we've been given. Pick it up in verse 14. It says, for it'll be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made 5 talents more. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Now after a long time, that's where we're at right now. We're in the long time. The part between where Jesus left and when he's coming again. It's a long time. But don't think, oh, he's not coming because it's been a long time. Remember last week? A day is unto 1,000 years. So it's been a couple days, Jesus is gone. It's the way we keep track of things is different. We're in that long time. The master of those servants came and settled accounts. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here, I have made 5 talents more. His master said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little, I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also who had 2 talents came forward, saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here I have made 2 talents more. His master said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little, I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also who had received the 1 talent came forward, saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here, you have what is yours. But his master answered him, you wicked and slothful servant. You know that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I scattered no seed. You ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Think of it this way. Spiritual preparedness includes spiritual activity and faithfulness. In this parable, the master gives talents according to ability. Talents, you can think of it as money, you can think of it as opportunities. Gifts or opportunities is a good way to think about it. And what are you going to do with the gifts, with the opportunities, with the talents that you've been given? Here's what's helpful for us in all this. What you have is what you're capable of. What you don't have is not yours to carry. Don't wish for more or less than what God gives you. In other words, you have something, some gift or gifts that God gives to you. You have opportunities that He lays out into and for your life. They're not the same as your wife, as your husband, as your child, as your neighbor, as someone else in church. Right? Why? Because He gives according to ability. And so we're not to look at someone else who was given something else, different gifts, different abilities, different talents, different opportunities, and go, that's not fair. It wouldn't be fair for the 2-talent person to be given 5 talents. We'd mess it up. The 1-talent person given 2 talents would mess it up. We're given something, an opportunity, a talent, according to our ability. And God knows that. They're like, well, what is my talent? What is this opportunity you speak of? Well, it may be, it doesn't tell us, it may be those spiritual gifts. 1 Corinthians 12, Romans 12, Ephesians 4, 1 Peter 4, I believe. All detail different spiritual gifts. And it says to each is given, not to the spiritual mature people are given, to each. Every person who is a believer is given a spiritual gift. At least one. Maybe more. You're like, I don't know. No, the Bible says. So you have a gift. Unquestionably, you have a gift. At least one, maybe more. How do I find that gift? Oh, there's the question. Well, you could take a little test. We got a little chart, like, that seems a little sterile. Yeah. Or you could serve and see what gift comes out. What God blesses through the gift that you've been given. Now here's the thing. I don't think we need to limit it to just spiritual gifts here. We don't need to limit it to just your service and what you do for the Lord here in this place. In fact, I believe this idea of talents and opportunities is much wider. It's our lifelong deal. It's our lifelong, how God comes to you, gives to you, equips you, and then what do you do with what He's given you? That may include your finances. That may include the opportunities and the people you run into and the people you work with, that you go to school with. It may include, all kinds of different things. How does that look in your life? You're like, See, notice also here, 5 talents makes 10, 2 makes 4, but what is said to both is the same. Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your master. You have been faithful over a little, I will give you much, and set you over many things. In other words, it's not how much you have, it's how faithful you are. It's not, are you the bright shining star or are you a toad? It's okay, either or, as long as you're faithful to what God has called you to do. As long as the opportunities that He presents for you, that you take advantage of them, then you're being faithful. See, think of it this way. Jesus mentions authority and capacity. Faithfulness on earth determines our reach and our depth in heaven. Our rule with Jesus in His kingdom and our enjoyment of heaven are enlarged by our service here on earth. It looks different in all our lives. You hear the stories. People who are on an airplane, and every time they're on an airplane, they've got a story. How they talk to the person beside them, they led them to the Lord. You're like, how does that happen all the time with some people? Right? Well, That's their opportunity. That's their talent. That's their gift. And they're open to using that gift. I've talked to people on the plane. It doesn't go like that. You know? Sometimes it's because you got all these kids around and everyone's like, shut them up, you know. But it's like, what if we didn't get upset about that? Just recognize, well, that was an opportunity at that point. Now, the problem happens is we pull back then. Why? Well, I didn't do anything there, so. And then when another opportunity comes, we're like, no, because last time didn't go so well. Well, you don't know what the next time will bring. You don't know what God's going to do in and through your life. What stopped the third one from using his talents? Verse 24, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, so I was afraid. Fear. He's like, oh boy, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of what you might do if I don't. I'm afraid if I don't perform, if I don't do what you want. I'm afraid. Now, before we go on to application of that, this can't be Jesus. Or if it is, he's got the wrong understanding of Jesus. Why? Well, because you don't have to be afraid of Jesus, right? You don't have to be afraid of, well, I messed up. Jesus is going to get you, you know. Because there'd be no disciples. Peter would not be the Apostle Peter. He'd be dead Peter. Right? Walking on water, he starts to doubt. Bye, Peter. If there was no second chances, if he didn't love him, if he had a works-based kind of relationship, when Peter denied Jesus, he could have said, that's it, I'm done. You're done. Once, okay, but 3 times, Peter? Come on. No. He takes you no matter what you've done, and there's grace, there's forgiveness. Sometimes it is on us to confess that and to bring it out so that it's not lingering in your life. But you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to be afraid of what God will do to you if you don't do for Him. He doesn't need us. He chooses to use us. We get to partner with Him to impact other people for the kingdom. There's nothing greater. It's nothing scary about it. You're like, oh yeah, have you tried to talk to somebody? Yes. It's scary. It doesn't always work. Sometimes you get shot down. Sometimes you get made fun of. Oh, you're that person, aren't you? You're one of those. Yes, I am. What do you mean, one of those? Like someone who lives by what the Bible says, what Jesus says, and that's a problem for you? Yes, it is. Okay. What are you going to do? That's just the way it is. But you don't have to be afraid of Jesus. This guy was afraid of the Master. Sometimes it's fear. He's called lazy and slothful. Right? Because what happens when you live the Christian life for so long and you're not pouring out to others? It's like the Dead Sea deal. Water comes in, nothing's going out. Nothing grows there. Right? It's called the Dead Sea for a reason. And spiritually speaking, if there's no outflow in our life, we get all bottled up and it becomes a mess. And we're ineffective. It's going to look different. Because you have different talents. You have different gifts. You have different opportunities than anyone else. The people God brings into your life, the situations, the life situations, all those things are particular to you. God's not surprised by it. He's not like, I didn't see that coming. No, He knows, and He's moving you through, and He's giving you opportunities to respond for His glory. Not so that you be like, look at me, look what I did. No, but so that He gets glorified, and that others come into the kingdom. He's called wicked and slothful. Why? Because he didn't do anything. The Master said, hey, you could have at least thrown it in the bank and I would have got interest. You could have done something. Today is the New York Marathon. There's 52-ish thousand people running the marathon. But there's over 1 million people on the streets of New York watching the marathon. They're cheering hard. You're almost there. Only 5 more miles. From Friday till tomorrow, thousands of people are going to be watching on a TV or in a stadium. 22 people play a game. Most are just watching. Like, So what should we do? Should we be playing football? Is that what we should do? No, we'd get killed. Those guys are really big. We should be running a marathon. Yeah, we should. Yeah. No. But there is something for you to do. All across the world today, thousands and millions will sit in a pew, in a chair. You're like, yeah, where are you going with this? Well, if that's the end, then that's the end. If you sit in the pew and then you just go home and there's no carry through, there's nothing else, you're taking the talent God has given you and you're just burying it. You're not doing something with it. You're like, oh, here we go. You want more children's workers, don't you? That's what this is about. Well, now that could be a side note, but that's not what this is about. Because like I said, it goes beyond just this time here. This is training, so this part is good. But then what are you going to do for the rest of the week for the Lord? Sometimes you're like, I don't know. That's okay. But could you pray? Say, God, I'm ready. Well, I'm not ready, but I'll be ready if you make me ready. To talk to someone, to do something, to bring people into my life that are totally you, and there'll be no other explanation for it. Maybe you have a different talent, and you're like, okay, I can do this, I can make this, I can give this to someone, it'd be a blessing for them. Should I do it, God? Right? It's taking what and who you are, making available to be filtered through God's hand and His timing as He gives opportunity. And He has given you gifts and talents and opportunities to use, not just to watch someone else do things and to do life, but, it's like here this morning. You could be listening to the worship team, like, wow, that's great. More like a concert. You're like, oh, wonderful. Very good, very good. Or you could be engaged and worshiping yourself. Right? You could be taking notes in the message. You're like, I am taking notes. Good. Why? Because here's what happens. If you do, you get to take those notes in the Word, and you get to be like a cow with the cud. Right? You get to chew it and think about it. And then tomorrow do the same thing, you regurgitate it a little. You're like, that's this guy's name. Yes. But it fits, spiritually speaking, what we're supposed to do with God's Word. Allow it to keep coming to mind. Allow it to keep penetrating our lives and filter through and come back and challenge us and to remind us and to point out and to lift up and to do all that God has planned if we give Him the room in our lives. See, faith risks. Yeah, it comes when you're watching and you're prepared to move. Back in 1 Samuel, Jonathan said this to his attendant who carried his weapons. Come on, let's cross over to the garrison of these uncircumcised men, the Philistines. Perhaps the Lord will help us. Nothing can keep the Lord from saving, whether by many or by few. What was going on? There's a huge army against them. And he just had this idea that was from the Lord, he felt. Like, you know what? Let's go. Where are we going? We're going over here where we can look down and see. Maybe God's got something for us. Maybe He's got a plan that's crazy, but let's just see. Let's just give God room to work and see what happens. And God had a plan. God wasn't, He's not like, ooh, that's a very good faith. No, but it brought Jonathan into a place where God could work and move, and Jonathan could see it. A few chapters later, 1 Samuel 17, there's a big dude named Goliath. Everyone's in fear and trembling. And David sent to go to his brothers, bring them some cheese and some bread, And then Goliath comes out, and they're all like, ah! David's like, who's that? What else are you saying? Oh, who's mocking our God? What could be done? What will be done for the man who goes up against and defeats, not, is slaughtered by, but who defeats the giant? Well, he'll be given this and that. Oh, let me at him. Like, you're just a kid. Yeah, but it's fine. I'm ready to take the risk. God's given me the talent. Here's the opportunity. I'm going to put it into action. All right, here's Saul's armor. That doesn't work. Why? Because it's not who I am. I'm not practiced in that. I'm not comfortable in that. See, sometimes God gives us opportunities and things to do. We try to do it like someone else. We try to be like someone else rather than just be who God made you to be. He's not asking you to be someone else. He's asking you to be you and to take the talents and then apply it to the opportunity at the right time. And that's what David did. And that's what God desires for our life. It's a faith deal. See, you could be watching all your life for something. There's people who are watching the stars, right? Every day, where do they go to work? They just look at a microscope, telescope, way out in space. They're not really looking for stars. They're looking for UFOs, right? They're listening to, is there life out there? And they're spending their whole watching for something, because they're not prepared. Prepared for what? What if there is? It's not. But they're committed to it. As Christians, as believers in Jesus Christ, we're watching for His soon return. The next step is to be prepared. What does that look like? Well, it looks like growing in Christ-likeness, growing in maturity in my walk with God, so that I can be used by Him and for Him to bring more into the kingdom. So that it's not just the frozen chosen, but it's, the church is growing. Oh, I don't know if I like that. What do you mean? You don't want more people to know Jesus? Well, when you put it that way, there's no other way to put it. That's the whole point, right? We're to share our faith. And we get equipped then to minister to others and to serve others with the talents God has given each one of us and the opportunities that He places before us. Take some faith steps. Like, that's scary. Well, that's the whole idea of faith, right? If it wasn't faith, you're just walking along. It's like, I can see it, I can figure it out. But faith is that, you're like, how's this going to turn out? I don't know. Are you going to do it? Well, no, that's scary. Yeah, I'm going to do it. Why? Because I'm going to trust God more than the situation. I'm going to believe that He has a plan here. Yeah, but you might fail. Yeah, you might. You might look bad. You might get embarrassed. You might fall down. It might lead people to mocking you. And all those things are true. But don't let it stop you from getting back up and trying again. See, if Peter had that attitude, walking on water, after you've done that, that's a pretty high point of life, right? How'd your life go? Well, I was doing all right as a fisherman. Jesus came and called me, so I followed Him, and then I walked on water. Yeah. And what else? That's it. I'd stop there. What? Because what happened when He walked on water? He sunk after the fact, right? And then, I'll follow you anywhere, Jesus. You're the Christ, the Son of the living God. Wow, that's great. Yeah, but this whole cross thing, not so good. Get behind me, Satan. Hey, Peter, you're going to deny me 3 times. Oh, no, I'll go to the end of the world for you, Jesus. Yeah, you're going to deny me first. And then he gets restored. He preaches the first sermon. Holy Spirit comes upon him. 3,000 added to the church. You might be a 5-talent person. You're only using one of those. You might be a 2, trying to be a 5, not being who you are. Maybe you're a 1, you're like, I'm only 1. I don't have anything cool to do. I just have 1 talent. Even Eeyore had a purpose. He's in the story. Okay? We're not sure all of the purpose, but we all have a place and a part to play. And so don't worry about what others have. Ask God to reveal the specific gift or talent or maybe just the opportunities before you so that you see. That you see the people that He wants you to talk to or to give something to or to minister to or to serve this way or to do this thing or do that thing. And just have spiritual eyes to be available and open to taking faith risks and to watch and see. To watch, to be waiting, to be prepared, to work. Why? Because it's day. Soon night will come and there'll be no more time. We'll be gone. But it's still time. There's still time to do something for the Lord. And your standing in heaven isn't dependent whether you work for Him or not. You can get in without it as the thief on the cross. Today you'll be with me in paradise. Jesus didn't say, okay, well, this is tricky. You're dying. You need to do something for me before you come to heaven. So how are we going to get around this? No. Today you'll be with me in paradise. What changes then? Well, your reward. Your responsibility in heaven. Some will be in charge of fork, some will be in charge of agnew, or some will be different responsibilities based on not how many talents you have, but how faithful you have been with what God has given to you. Let's pray.